Alright guys, so let me explain really quick where we are. This is a game known as Garry's Mod, sometimes referred to as Gmod. It's an older game. It was released all the way back in 2004, but it used to be one of my absolute favorites to play. Um, Except for possibly Minecraft, Gmod is the purest sandbox experience I've ever played. Uh, there's no actual game objectives to speak of. You pretty much just choose a map and then you spawn in various random objects, kind of like this, just like that, um, which you can then manipulate in various ways, kind of like this. And then you have all these tools off to the side here to kind of connect the objects together and, you know, let them interact in various ways. So, like, this is the pulley tool here. So now when I unfreeze it, they're now linked up in like a pulley arrangement. So that's Gmod. Um, that's the general idea behind it. People can build all sorts of crazy machines using these tools and connecting these objects together in different ways. Um, all sorts of crazy machines and vehicles, and then you're able to share them with other people. Uh, a few friends and I used to just spend hours on a server together creating just these amazing like airships and robots and spacecraft and just random stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. So so it's been a few years since I've like really messed with Gmod, but a few weeks ago I got back into it to work on a secret project for you guys. And that project is still ongoing. But I put it on a small hold, and it's because I discovered something, um, like an anomaly of some kind. Um, you see, I was here on this oceanic map, which you can kind of see here. It's a huge map with lots of wide open space, all sorts of different locations and objects out there besides this one little harbor town. Um, but I was on this oceanic map and I was working on the project, the secret project, and I decided to take a break and fly around a bit because that's something you can do in Gmod is that you can freely no clip around. Um, but anyway, I was flying around a little bit and I had noticed that the author had made a few updates to the map since I had last played it years and years ago. So I was kind of, floating around checking out what all he had changed. And I dipped underwater for just a second, just to skim around on the bottom. I didn't plan to find anything. There had never been anything there before. But when I was skimming the bottom, I found this. Um, some kind of huge artificial structure sitting on the ocean floor. My friends and I had made excursions underwater on this map before. We had never seen anything like this. So what is this? Is this something the author added? Is this something that my friends and I had just missed? Um, what was it? I don't know. And unfortunately, uh, the water on this map is murky. As you can see, I couldn't really see it too clearly, and I only had a few seconds of air left when I found it. I very quickly drowned right after taking the screenshot. Now, luckily, I am a serial screenshotter, and I was able to capture the image before I died. So we do have that at least. And from what I can tell, the structure seems to be primarily pyramid shape, and I got the impression that maybe it may have been somewhere near the center of the map, but I'm not 100% sure because I didn't note my location before I drowned and respawned. So, for now, I've decided to name the structure Undersea Pyramid Anomaly 1, or UPA-1 for short. So, let's explain what we're doing here a little bit. The way Gmod works, I could, if I wanted to, just disable my air supply add-on and no clip down to the bottom like this and search around again until I find it. But I don't want to do that because years ago, back when my friends were playing this regularly, we would always kind of, just kind of make our own game, so to speak. We would make these challenges for ourselves, and then, we'd build some crazy machine or vehicle or invention to meet those challenges. So I decided to kind of continue that tradition by finding UPA-1 the old-fashioned way. Um, What I mean by that is by constructing a vessel equipped to explore the sea at length and using that vessel to rediscover UPA-1 and hopefully fully explore it, um, as well as investigate any other anomalies that we find along the way. So just like in the old days, these challenges are going to come with rules so that things are not too easy on me. So here are the rules I've decided to go with. First off, while I'm at sea, I'm not going to use any of the sandboxing tools. So that means no spawning in new items, no using the no clip, no using any of the special tool features, and no using the physics gun, which is this big green thing here that lets me, um, manipulate objects I've spawned in. Kind of like show. This is what the physics gun does. So, no using that while I'm at sea. They're great. They're absolutely critical features when you're actually building things, but they're kind of overpowered for this challenge. So I'm going to allow myself to use the features when I'm here in port, but not while I'm out at sea. So, and for the purposes of this challenge, when I say in port, I mean whenever I'm at this harbor town or at the opposing harbor town on the opposite corner of the map, and my ship is tied up at a jetty. Um, or if I'm in the process of tying it up at the jetty. Those that's what I mean by import, and that's when I consider it okay to use these tools. So I'm doing that so that I have a way to resupply the ship and repair it if I need to, but also forces me to kind of rely on what I have once I'm actually out on the water. So there are going to be some exceptions to this. For example, rule number 2, the physics gun can be used for anchoring. I'm giving myself that allowance because the physics engine, it's an older version of the source engine. It's a little wonky. It's not really, I couldn't really figure out a way to make a realistic anchor, so I'm just giving myself this exception. When I want to anchor my ship somewhere, I'm going to allow myself to freeze it with the physics gun. So that's exception number 1. The next exception is rule number 3. Um, I'm going to allow myself to use no clipping to embark and disembark from the various vessels I'm using. And again, that's just an allowance because the ship is so wonky, or the physics engine is so wonky, it's a little hard to get in and out of some of these vehicles because the engine doesn't really know how to deal with all the random parts colliding. It wasn't really built for that, and it's a mess. So I'm just going to let myself no clip when I'm getting into or out of a vessel, if I need to. So the last rule, number 4, is um, if I die, then I have to completely clear the map of everything I've spawned in and start the challenge over from scratch here at the harbor. So hopefully that rule won't ever come into effect, but it's there anyway just in case. Alright, so with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and walk down to the jetty here and actually meet the ship. This down here is the Glomar II, and here, no clip, swing around, get a good view of it. This is the Glomar II, which I based on one of the very first boats I ever built in Gmod. And for those curious, the name also has some real-world historical significance, which I'm sure I'm going to get around to telling that story at some point during the series. But let's actually board here. The Glomar II features, as you can see, a pontoon-based design, two large pontoons on each end, almost like catamaran, but a little bit different. Um, Part of the reason I did that was for stability, part of it because it's an easy design to implement in Gmod, but also I needed space for this lift so that my mini sub here can get in and out of the water. So real quick, we'll take a look at the wheelhouse over here. This is going to be the command center of the ship. Back here I can monitor how much oxygen's on reserve. I have some health packs in case I get hurt. Have some instrumentation here so I can see range to the ocean floor, see my speed and heading, get a bearing for when I'm ready to come back home, things like that. So moving a little aft here, over here is the oxygen pumping equipment. Because I do use a life support mod, I cannot breathe underwater for an indefinite amount of time. You can see here down at the bottom of the screen, I only have a few seconds of air on my own. So I need to supplement that by either charging my suit with air or driving around in a submarine. But that submarine also needs air. So here we have oxygen pumps, storage tanks, an electrical supply to run it, which is actually supplemented by these solar panels on top of the wheelhouse. All of that apparatus just to build up a supply of air, which can then be pumped at this station either to my personal suit, which holds about 5 minutes of air, or this pump can pump it to the mini sub, which holds about 20-ish minutes of air. So, about that sub, I've kind of nicknamed it the pill bug. The idea is that once we think we may have found UPA-1, I will be able to lower the sub down into the water and board it and drive around on the ocean floor and see if we can't figure out what's going on. Let's see. I mentioned it carries roughly 20 minutes worth of air. It also has a suit charger on the side here in case I feel like taking an excursion outside of the sub. Other than that, the instrumentation is pretty similar to what's in the wheelhouse. I have a bearing lock on the ship itself so I can find my way to the ship when I'm done. I have rangers so I can detect if there's anything above or below me. And I have monitors for my internal air supply, things like that. Further aft, we just have the landing pad for this hover sled here. Basically, I can hop in, and it's basically literally just a flying sled. Use it to kind of coast around like that. The reason I'm bringing this on board is because, like I said, there's other things out there on this map besides this harbor town and besides the little harbor town, or the opposing harbor town on the opposite corner. There's other stuff on the map surface, which if we happen to run into them, which I'm sure we will, I'd like to be able to have a way to shuttle over to them and kind of show you around, because some of the stuff out there is actually pretty cool. So that's the idea behind that. So yeah, that's a basic tour of the ship. I am leaving this introductory episode as kind of a standalone thing, so that those of you who don't care about the long explanation can just go straight into episode 1, where we will finally actually cast off and head out into open water and see if we can solve the mystery of UPA-1. But yeah, that's about it. So I will catch you in the next episode. See you around.